Anyway.
Of what type of impact specific music has on people. Mm-hmm. And a friend of mine, we've had conversations about the cadence of particular preachers. Mm-hmm, because a Southern Baptist minister will have a different cadence than a Pentecostal preacher, and they'll have a different cadence.
This is actually true, and I would agree with Matt's psychological analysis of preachers being manipulative, right? Preachers do, especially the Protestant and the Evangelical and the Holy Roller creeps, engage in this kind of neurolinguistic programming and taking you on this emotional high, and it's a bunch of bullshit. So he's correct about this. I'll give you one example. Paul Washer, right? I've talked about Paul Washer for many years and the humorous experiences that I've had with Paul Washer. And one of the ways that I started realizing that I think Paul was a disingenuous figure was that after many years of seeing Paul's sermon, by the way, I don't know if he's still popular on YouTube, but for a while there, he was getting really popular. His sermons were getting 1 million views, 100,000 views. I don't know. I haven't followed him anymore, but for many, many, many years, not after he had me thrown out of a church one time, but I noticed that with Paul, right? Paul would do, so when I was an idiot evangelical, I would notice that the Pentecostal charismatic preachers would do this, right? Where it's like a performance, right? Jesse Duplantis and all these creeps, right? They're doing like a stage show, right? And it's an emotional kind of entertainment thing. It's all entertainment and taking you on this highs and lows and telling you weird, crazy stories. Ha ha ha. And then I noticed that, you know what? The Hellfire, Brimstone, Baptists, and Calvinists do the same thing. And I really noticed that Paul Washer was full of it when he would appeal to the Spirit moving him to cry at the same point in every sermon that he gives, the same Hellfire, Brimstone sermon story that he tells. Yeah, come on, dude. I'm supposed to believe that the Holy Spirit moves you every Wednesday night when you tell this same story. I'm sorry, I don't believe it, Paul. Right? I mean if you go listen to Paul Washer and you'll see what I mean, right? I'm going to talk to you today about Jesus. Friends, Jesus is angry at you. Friends, Jesus hates you right now. And I'm not going to talk to you about grace and kindness and all the things that Joel Osteen wants to talk to you about today, friends. By the way, that's a pretty good approximation of Paul Washer, by the way. But I'm sorry, Paul. The Spirit of God is not moving you to weep every time you do your shtick. I just don't believe it. It's bullshit. And I'm going to call you out as a bullshit artist. I mean, if you hadn't been doing this same shtick for 20 years, dude. But again, I'm out of the evangelicals and these kinds of clowns? Because they're atheism factories. Yes, Paul Washer is an atheism factory. And that might sound outlandish given the fact that hasn't Paul Washer converted so many people to Calvinism? It's theatrics, dude. And theatrics, emotionalism, it's all shifting sands. If you build your perspective and your paradigm, your worldview on that stuff, you'll be an atheist in 5 or 10 years. Maybe more, maybe sooner, maybe 1 year, right? I mean, these people just churn out atheists because it's not real. Maybe there was a time period when Paul was authentic. I don't know. I'm not interested in judging or going into Paul Washer's psyche and trying to figure out, was he a sincere missionary? I don't know, but I do recall that Paul Washer has these stories about, and to me it sounds like total prelest, right? I mean, it's like he says that when he was young, he was so serious about his Christianity that he would not eat for a week or two, and he would go live in his closet and pray for a week or two with no food. And it's like, dude, come on. I mean, we appreciate the ascetic ideal, right, that you're going for, perhaps from the Orthodox perspective. But what did this produce? It produced a guy who comes out of this, thinks he's restoring true Christianity, literally, because the church went into a blackout phase after the death of the apostles. Okay. Last time I talked to Paul Washer, that was the quack level BS that he believed. Okay. That's delusion. That is like greatest level classic prelest, right? It's like he's a prophet, right? And no wonder so many people end up atheists when the religious world is full of people like that, full of just deluded people, cult leaders, right? Now, how do we know when somebody's not a cult leader? Well, one thing that they're going to do is not appeal to their own authority. They're not going to appeal to and point to themselves. You say, well, wait a minute, Jay, are you a cult leader? Maybe you're guilty of all this stuff. What do we tell you to do? Do we tell you to do what I say? No. We direct you elsewhere. We direct away. What does Jesus say? He that seeks his own glory seeks himself. But the Son points you to the Father, right? Jesus set the example that he doesn't call attention to himself in the sense of who to listen to. Who do we tell you to listen to? We say go to the canonical Orthodox Church. You need to find a spiritual father. You need to find a person that will be able to direct you and lead you. That is not my role. I am not a guru. I do not give you spiritual advice in the sense of what you need to do in your personal life. And that's not me. That's not my role. My job is to just simply tell you, like a signpost, a pointer, look to orthodoxy. Look to the church fathers. Look to the Orthodox theologians of the 20th century, Meyendorff, Staniloy, Florovsky. Look to Athanasius. Look to St. Maximus. Look to the Seventh Ecumenical Council for worship. Look to those things, right? We don't do anything new here. We just repeat what those people say. So no, we're not a cult. Right? We're not trying to direct you to my strip mall church that I built down the road. I don't have a church in the sense of I don't run any church. I don't run any denomination. Right? When you come into the Discord, who do we defer to? The clerics and the priests in the Discord. There you go. That's a key way to know that you're not being led by a cult leader. What does a cult leader do? He says, listen to me. God anointed me. I'm an anointed one. I'm the restoration of the true church, which fell away in the death of the apostles, which fell away in the 4th century, which fell away in the 15th century. It fell away in the 3rd century. I'm going to restore the church. Every cult leader says the same baloney. And by the way, remember in Jesus' ministry, they're constantly asking him, where do you get your authority? Who gave you the authority? John the Baptist, where do you get your authority? Who are you? It's a question of authority. And that's a valid question because the authority has to be consistent. It has to come from on high and it has to come through a consistent lineage, right? You're not going to have a prophet come who teaches something completely different than Moses. And that's Jesus' argument to the Pharisees throughout the book of John. You're not going to have a prophet come who restores the church, right? Zillions of cults say this because the church didn't die. The gates of hell can't prevail against the church. So you can't restore what was never fallen. Does God raise up saints like Athanasius to save the church from destruction? Sure. But the church didn't black out. Okay. There was no period of no church, right? And that's one easy way to detect true and false teachings, true and false leaders, cult leaders, etc. is do they think that the church died? Do they think the succession of bishops died? Right? Do they teach differently than the church taught for the first 1,000 years? Those are easy signposts, public normative ways to determine the difference. All right, let's get back. I'm sorry, we went way down this road here. Let's get back.